So we're going to start right off here. This is from Georgetown University. And the heading is Everything You Need to Know About Jesuit History in the U.S. The Jesuit piggybacked on each of the colonial ventures into the Americas. Following the Spanish into the South and Central America, the French into the northern North America, and the English into a small part of the 13 colonies. The distinctive part of the English colonies was that the English Empire was specifically Protestant. Now, I don't want to lose anybody with all of this history and information, but these little details are actually extremely important and have a big part to play in the history as things developed. So going back to the slide, the Calverts made a very careful set of implicit agreements with the English kings that as long as the church was not established in any form and the Catholics were discreet, then they could legally practice their religion in Maryland. The Calverts then recruited Jesuits to come with them to Maryland, 2 priests and a lay brother. And the main name we need to focus on is Andrew White.
Yes, Andrew White was what the White House is named after. It's not because it's a White House. It's actually because it was owned by Andrew White.
On this day in 1647, Massachusetts Bay banned Jesuit priests from the colony on penalty of death. The English Puritans who settled the colony feared the Jesuits for several reasons. First, simply because they were Catholic. To Puritans, Catholicism was nothing less than idolatrous blasphemy, and Catholics were destined for eternal damnation. Finally, the Jesuit missionaries had converted large numbers of Indians in Canada to Catholicism. While the Puritans were inhospitable to anyone who did not share their religious views, they were particularly hostile to Roman Catholics. To them, the Pope was the Antichrist, and the papists who followed them were in league with the devil. If you read Daniel chapter 7 and also Revelation 13, Revelation 17, it perfectly fits, all those characteristics perfectly fit the papal system. And it wasn't only the Massachusetts Bay Colony that came to that conclusion. We also have the reformers, Martin Luther, John Huss, John Knox.
That's
all
true.
those reformers who also said that this system fits the characteristics in the Bible. Reading on, it says, only a handful of Roman Catholics resided in Boston in these years, according to a 1689 report. There was not a single papist living in New England. But in the early 1700s, stories began circulating that there were a considerable number of Catholics in the colonial capital. So like we've talked about in the last episode, they being the Catholics were coming over right as people started coming over into America. And though they were suppressed for a time, slowly but surely, eventually they got more and more of a foothold in America.
Yeah. And this was a plan of theirs to send people to these new areas to colonize or to infiltrate their faith into those areas so that they could eventually take control of those areas.
On our website, you can read an article on the 13 characteristics of the Antichrist and which power, and it's not a person, it's a system or a power that fits those 13. And it has to fit all 13. It can't just fit some of them.
Yes.
And so, there is some idea amongst evangelicals that it might be Antiochus Epiphanes or somebody in the future. That's preterism and futurism. But the Bible says the characteristics, and it has to fit all 13. And so if anyone's interested in that, they can go to our read section and check out who is the Antichrist. And there will be a nice checklist and who fulfills that. And according to our understanding, that is the Catholic system. And it doesn't mean there's one person or, that we should vilify Catholics now. Most of them don't even know this, but it's the system that we are talking about.
Yeah. And that the Bible's warning about the actions that the system is going to take against people.
Exactly. And it does not mean that Catholics are destined for eternal damnation the way these purists thought it was.
Exactly. And I also wanted to point out, because people may be wondering, who are these Jesuits that we keep referring
Right.
to? What is this order? And we're going to get into who exactly these people are in a little bit. So stay tuned for that. But just pointing out just a simple definition. The Jesuits were formed. The Jesuits are a secret order that was founded by the Catholic Church. It's better known as the Society of Jesus.
Right.
And they originated as part of the Counter-Reformation. And their goal, their agenda is to destroy Protestantism.
Correct.
That's what they were founded on. So when we see these people coming over to America, this Protestant country, they were wanting to destroy what was going on over here as far as Protestantism is concerned.
Right. And that's why people were scared of them. That's why people didn't want them in their colonies.
And it wasn't just theologically that they were willing to destroy people.
Right.
It was physically as well. This was a violent group of people.
Yeah, they take an oath that's pretty horrific, and it involves a lot of physically violent things that they would promise to do if necessary. And one of their oaths, in part of their oath, it also says that they will disguise themselves as whatever they need to do in order to be accepted or to infiltrate. So they could even disguise themselves as a Protestant or a Freemason or anything.
Yeah.
So that's why they were considered to be so dangerous, because you sometimes didn't even know who they were.
Mm-hmm.
And their motto was the end justifies the means. So they could lie, cheat, steal, do whatever was necessary as long as it advanced their agenda and the agenda of the Catholic Church. And that's a very dangerous thing to advocate.
Well, that was one of the reasons why they were banned from European countries. Prior to this, they were already banned from many of the countries because they were very subversive. They were trying to take down governments that didn't, support them or the Catholic Church. And so the governments were saying, I don't want this in the country. And so they have had that stigma for a long time, and it was justified.
Yeah. Now we have here, Kives, this is the signers of the Declaration of Independence.
And this is just showing the list of people who signed the Declaration of Independence and what they were involved with. Like you have there in the red, the one person in the red was Charles Carroll. He was Catholic.
Yes.
And the blue names you see there are Freemasons.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the green, which are believed to be Freemasons. We're not sure either way. But you had this influence with the signers of the secret societies and the Freemasons, and we have the one Catholic guy there. So this influence was growing, this secret order. Remember when we talked about in the last episode Francis Bacon and his connection with the Rosicrucians and Freemasons and this idea of a new Atlantis.
Right.
So this Freemasonic connection there with the signers kind of shows that agenda may have been gaining ground at that time.
And Freemasons are generally known to be Protestant. They are a Protestant secret society. However, after the Jesuits were banned from the different countries, and because they have that oath where they're allowed to take on any kind of persona that they need to in order to achieve their gain, they infiltrated those Freemasons and became a part of them as well. And so now Freemasons are often very influenced by Catholics. And of course, there's also occult influence as well in Freemasonry.
Yeah, there's a lot of different levels and stages to this, which a lot of the early people did not realize. And a lot of people even now don't realize some of the higher up degrees of Freemasonry and what they actually think and believe and what their purpose is.
Yes, well, the lower levels, they don't usually know about what's going on in the really secret parts of this organization. They just think that it's a a group of people that like to help others. But in the higher levels is when you get into all the nitty gritty and the secret doctrines, Albert Pike and that sort of thing. And they were very, very secret until about 2000. In 2000, they opened all their temples, the Freemason temples, to the public.
Yeah.
So that was interesting because for some reason they kind of came out of the closet at that point. And I guess sometimes it's easier to hide under a light, if you know what I mean, because it becomes so common and people think, oh yeah, I know about that. And they don't think that it's really a problem. So,
well, and they started making movies. I mean, National
That's
Treasure
true, yeah.
and, other things like this.
They made it almost cool.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's cool. It's this secret thing, but it's not anything bad.
Right.
But we can see here from this list that there was influences starting to really become prominent already early on within these areas. So we have this quote from the Great Controversy. They felt that their duty to God was superior to human enactments and that man could exercise no authority over their consciences.
And this is referring to the framers of the Constitution. So we want to bring out again that even though we've been looking at sort of the secret dark side of this, there is a good side to this. We have to have that balance because otherwise we're just going in either direction. We can't get caught in the weeds.
Right.
And that's not even biblical because the Bible says that it had lamb-like horns.
Yes.
Right? So it had these Christian principles, republicanism, Protestantism, and this was a good thing. The founding was good.
Yes.
The ending is not going to be so good. But the start was actually good, even though there was people trying to work in behind the scenes.